You mentioned passenger facilities charges, the PFC, being used to finance these projects and argue the cap should be increased. I held an aviation roundtable recently back home, and it was clear the jury was still out on whether or not the cap should be raised. While it may be a local user fee, it can disproportionately affect rural airports, which require more connections. It's rarely, as a Montanan, we can get to our destination without having to make a connection. And that, therefore, would increase ticket prices for Montanans. How do you ensure that increases in fees won't negatively affect rural Americans? And I speak as someone who lives in a state that we're typically in the bottom quartile, if not the bottom 10% in per capita wages.
All right. Senator Daines, thank you for the question. It's good to see you again. It's an interesting question in terms of connectivity for rural America. As I noted before you had a chance to come in the room, the passenger facility charge, lifting the cap there, really is the only funding option for airports that guarantees that airports of all sizes, whether they're urban or rural, whether they're large hub, medium hub, small hub, non-hub, or general aviation airports, will actually benefit. Because the larger airports, as they increase funding, will then give up federal funding through the AIP program, and that recirculates back into the small airport fund, generating additional revenues for smaller airports. Point one. Point number two, your concern, as I understand it, would be, let's say we're going to go from Bozeman to Chicago or Denver and then on from there, and the concern that a Chicago or a Denver might increase their fee to a non-competitive rate. Airports have an incentive to keep their per-enplaned passenger cost as low as possible because they're competing against each other for traffic as well. And in the case of Chicago, we use that as an example. Lots of people flowing through Chicago as a hub, but it's almost equally split between those that are going through Chicago as a transit point versus those that would originate in Chicago. And so if I'm the mayor of Chicago, I don't want to raise that local fee to an unhealthy amount, an uncompetitive amount that's going to hurt my own constituents any more than they would want to hurt yours.